Welcome to Piano Teaching Success Q&A. I'm Gillian Erskine, and together with my colleague Paul Myatt, we've put this program together for you so you can get answers to your questions. Let me introduce our panel for you today. We have Sara Campbell, who joins us from the beautiful West Middlesex area in Pennsylvania on the east coast of the US. Sara is a business strategist and mind coach for piano teachers and online music educators. And welcome, Sara.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
That's great. Great to have you. Let me introduce Susan. Susan joins us today. Susan's a pianist, piano teacher, performance coach, and an accredited offshore work teacher with a background in Kadai and Dalcroze. Susan has taught at the Sydney Conservatorium and also for Sydney's best theatre courses, as well as running her own piano studio. Susan has also worked with Paul in delivering professional development workshops at the Sydney Con in whole body learning and creative teaching strategies. Welcome, Susan.
I love being here. I love this show. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Susan. Vanessa Munns lives and teaches piano in the West Australian Wheatbelt area, which is about 3.5 hours drive. I think it's northeast of Perth.
Yeah, northeast. Yeah.
Vanessa made the brave move to start an early childhood program in the middle of all of this, and we'll find out more about that later. But welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you. It's quite nice to be here.
Terrific. Well, like we do each week, we're going to kick off today's show by visiting each of our panelists in their home studios, so you can see their setup and ask some questions. So let's start with Sara, and let's have a look at her studio. And there we go. We've got a little map pin, so we know where you live, Sara.
It's close. I'm actually on it's West Middlesex, so I'm on the other side of PA, but it's really close. You can move the pin over like an inch to the left.
Okay. So let's have a look at. We're gonna have a look at. Here we go. Some photographs. So talk us through your studio.
So this is my little voice and piano studio, and it's in you can see a half basement. So I have the windows that are there are at grass level, so we get visits from bunnies and neighborhood cats, and that's always fun. And this is my online setup right now. After I cleaned up all the music that was everywhere, so we have a good time there. It's really fun.
Terrific.
And I do some group lessons occasionally with my kids every semester. So this was them doing a little performance party for one another.
That's great. You got plenty of room there. Oh, here's them doing this.
Oh, rhythm cups.
Is that a rhythm cup thing?
It is. They're obsessed.
Great. I love those rhythm cups.
Oh, this is Sophia and Julia. This was they had a senior recital. They graduated, it was 2 years ago. They did a little senior recital and they set up a photo booth. They're sweethearts.
Oh, that's terrific. Lovely. Susan, you've just moved to Mittagong.
Yeah.
Show us your brand new studio.
Well, this is the temporary studio.
So those of us who don't know where Mittagong is, it's in the, can you actually, Paul's in the background here, can you
We're about an hour and a half south of Sydney.
Yeah, it's in the Blue Mountains. Is it Blue Mountains there?
No, Southern Highlands. So kind of same mountain range.
You're just a bit south.
Yeah. But we moved just before lockdown, my piano arrived. And also just before lockdown, we have a couple of friends who were to move to Como in Italy, go and move into our piano studio. So this is my temporary arrangement until things normalize again.
Right. And have you've got, is it an iPad there?
Yeah, I use that on the side for side views. I use my phone for overhead views. I find I don't have a lot of need at the moment for full keyboard view, although I'm planning on getting one. Because I'm planning on doing more of this, but mostly I'm talking to my computer. So things move around a bit.
Okay, so you got your computer, your laptop that you sort of talk to.
Yeah.
And then you've got the side view for the piano if you need it, and an overhead view with your phone. And you sort of cycle between the three of those. And what's this planning on doing more of this? Or we might come to that later.
Yeah.
Okay. Vanessa, can you show us through your studio?
Yeah, sure.
There she is.
Oh, wow.
That's where she is.
In the middle of nowhere.
the
dear.
dirt. You can see the dirt there.
Yeah, so I had to quickly rearrange my farm office to put a digital piano in. You can see there's a music stand sort of at the top. That's actually hanging off my whiteboard, so I can actually attach my magnetic phone to it for an overhead view.
How have you got a magnetic phone? Is that one of those things you stick on the back of your phone? It becomes...
Yeah. Well, no, it's a case. My case has a magnetic one, so I've always been using it for when I video my students, and then it's all a case of having to adapt to the new situation. Oh, this will work too, and then I've got my computer all set up over the other side, and so I've got enough room to play a violin, a guitar, clarinet, as you can see, just depending on what I'm needing for the day.
How did you attach that music stand to the whiteboard? Did you take it off its stand or something or other?
No, took it off the stand, and basically the lip of the music stand is actually behind the whiteboard. Yeah. So basically, it's not moving at all.
That's all we need.
Yep.
That's very inventive. And here's some children.
Yep. This is when I was doing my face-to-face lessons for the junior music program. So it's sort of in a playgroup room, which I go and visit. And this is my setup now. It's in my laundry. It's got a green wall, great. And I've got 2 music stands. One's got an iPad, so I can see all the kids when they're online. And then again, my iPhone's been made good use of. And the disaster that is after that lesson, well, yes, it takes a bit to clean up. And and these are some of my little happy little munchkins who are well and truly getting into the spirit. Well and truly.
That's lovely. That was when, again, I guess when you were face-to-face, that photo.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to some questions for this week. Beth from Melbourne asks, I'm finding one of my students is not learning as well as she normally would. She seems to lack focus in her lessons sometimes. In face-to-face lessons, she's always been a good student. I suspect she might be worried about her granny, who's in lockdown because of the virus. Her granny normally brings her to lessons, and I think she's worried granny might die. Susan, have you found any of your students are stressed like this?
Oh, yes, and still like this. No, it's just, I think because you're one-on-one with them, it's a more intimate relationship and they feel like they can say something to you. So, yeah, definitely.
And so, well, we gave this question to Susan and Paul earlier in the week, and they got all creative and put this together for everyone to have if you've got some stressed students.
Susan and I have done so many workshops around Australia, and we thought we'd like to share with you a song that Susan picked up when she was in Tasmania. When were you in Tasmania, Susan?
Oh, I've been there a couple of times. First time in 2003, where we met, actually. But this is actually from a woman called Alison Davies, who is a music therapist down in Tassie. And I was looking for a piece or some information about how to help people with anxiety in this time of very strange time. And I find that a lot of times there's a lot of adult talk, but the kids kind of get missed. And they are quite anxious. They will tell you face to face, they're scared grandma will die or what's going to happen. And they don't tend to verbalise it in the Zoom lessons. So I thought, I need something. Anyway, she has this little song which goes, every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. It's such an earworm. And these words to the song that she's put together are fantastic. And it's also a great little piece, not just for the kids, but for everyone. So,
how would you teach it?
I teach it by singing. Want to learn it?
Sure.
Listen to the words and tell me when I'm finished what you think this song is about.
Okay.
Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well.
Cells being happy?
Very good. And there's something else. Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well.
And well?
Yeah. Where are your cells, Paul?
In your body.
Yes, very good. You got it now. So here's the whole thing again. Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. Let's see if you really know it. When I miss out a word, I'd like you to put that word in.
Okay.
Every little
Cell
in my
body
is.
happy.
Oh, very good. Every little cell in my body is.
Well.
Oh, brilliant. Let's see if you got the tune now. Every little cell in my body is happy.
Every little cell in my body is happy.
Every little cell in my body is well.
Every little cell in my body is well.
Ah!
I'm hoping that I was a pretty good student and got most of the things right. But there's a lot of kids who won't sing necessarily. So what are the strategies that you would have to work with a child that won't sing?
There are a few who are resistant, although I will say that this is one of those earworms that gets under your skin, and I have had mums come back to me and say, what is that song you're teaching so-and-so? From even the resistance ones. So you add something with the body when you teach this. So it's like, and they can just do this.
Yeah.
You know, very simple, you know, make it a big movement so that they actually are moving. They'll all move. I haven't known anyone not to move. Because you want to move with this song.
Mm-hmm.
And I just leave it. That's the beginning of the lesson. We sing that. It's not the whole song. It's the first part. Next week, we revise it. We add another part. It builds from week to week.
The thing I liked the most about what you were telling me was that this song is pentatonic. So students can actually learn to play it by ear on the black note. You only need to give them the first note.
Which is and you know, I start by teaching kids lots of songs on the black keys, but I even have a beginner who started this term starting to learn how to pick that out, because I encourage them to try it by ear, and he hasn't even learnt the solfege for cymbals or anything yet. Others, they're so familiar with all their do, re, mi, so, la songs, they go to it straight away and pick it out, which is what you want. You want to marry that oral and cognitive sense.
Alison Davies gave us permission to share her lyrics with you. So we actually have made an ensemble, which could be a vocal ensemble, anything. And Susan and I have put together something that you might enjoy. Here it is. And the score is in the teacher resource kit, so you can actually grab that yourself if you would like to do it with your students. Every little cell in my body is well.
Every cell.
I'm so glad. Every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad.
Every cell.
Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad. Every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad. Every little cell in my body is well.
That looks like so much fun, Susan.
It was great fun. Paul and I always have fun doing these things. But
yeah, and we'll have to be a big thank you to your husband.
He didn't have a choice, really. But it's such a fun song for everybody, and I love revisiting it every week and adding something new, you know, playing little ostinati, singing ostinati. It's all good fun, but it's such a positive thing to sing those words. I just love it. It's helped a lot of kids. Even recently, just this week, I just had a little girl, she's 6. She had her first day back at school after lockdown. She's totally overwhelmed, which has been a common response. And She said, every little cell in my body is unhappy. Every little cell in my body is unwell. But then we got to the end of the lesson and we sang the original words, and she was happy to do that. So that was a really nice thing too.
Yeah, it was nice to segue her from and let her to be where she was.
Yeah.
And then move her to where you hoped she would go.
Yeah, and it was, you know, that whole thing of playing music was the thing that calmed her down, you know, and she could recognise that, which was really lovely.
Yeah. And as Helena Singleton said, you know, when you speaking affirmations is really good, but if you sing them, they become more powerful. I think that's such a good point. Sort of beds more in our DNA, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's great. Vanessa, have you had any stressed students, and what have you done with them to relax them so they can learn?
Yeah, no, I definitely have had a few, especially over the school holidays. It was the first time I've ever offered music lessons during the holidays. So I had a couple, when we tuned into each other, it's sort of like completely shut down, absolutely all over the place. And it's sort of like you're thinking, what do I do? But I just went back to rote teaching, saying, look, this is something you can achieve, and doing that, the repetition. And it's amazing how within about 10 minutes of just doing some basic rote learning, they just all of a sudden just pick up. You can just feel that change in mood, and then the rest of the lesson's fine. That's been my go-to, really.
Yeah. It's so important to recognise that they are stressed, and they can't. None of us can learn if we're in a stressed mindset, and so it's important that we do something there to actually segue them so that we can actually learn. But Sarah, you teach a lot of voice students, and in doing so, you actually work with a lot of teens, don't you? How are the teens coping with this virus? Are they worried, or are they just like, oh yeah, we're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, it won't hurt us? What are you finding?
You know, I think it's a combination of both. I see my teens, some of them are doing, you know, they're saying, oh my gosh, this is, you know, not a big deal. Everything's fine. Like, I'm just bored and, you know, I'm whatever, school, blah. And they're really bored with the online schooling. But then I have some that are, you know, they're really stressed out. And especially I have a senior this year who is really struggling. And, you know, because her graduation was just last week, and they don't get to do the things that they normally would get to do. And it's hard to see them go through that. And so I've spent a lot of time really just talking to them in lessons. You know, there might be my lessons are normally 45 minutes long, and it's not uncommon to just give them space to talk for 20 minutes and to give them permission to feel, and then, you know, we eventually find our way into the music, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's so good. And it's the time that, you know, we many times talk about us being sort of quasi-psychiatrists, or not psychologists or whatever. You know, we actually are listening to where they're at, and it's just part of the territory, isn't it? It always has been, but even more so in times like this, where things are just so different from what they would normally be, and everyone has a different reaction to that. Well, we've put Susan and Paul's teaching ideas into our online teacher resource kit, and here's how you download that.
The Piano Teaching Success Resource Kit is expanding every week. We've added the Every Little Cell, sheet music and ensemble for you to explore with your students. There's also a new COVID-19 studio poster to put up when you return to face-to-face teaching. Of course, the other resources are still there. The 64 flashcard party, 1, 2, 6 and 12 stave manuscript, make your own paper keyboards, and the Google Sheets template, a free online solution for lesson notes. All of these free at pianoteachingsuccess.com. Enjoy! Have you joined the Piano Teaching Success Facebook group? It's where we share courses, interviews, teaching ideas, training, creative improvisation ideas, exam board info, and much more. Lighten your workload and fast-track your piano teaching success. Join the Facebook group right now.
Thanks, Paul. Well, the big news of the week, which is almost seems like old news now, came from WA, with schools officially going back last Monday. And New South Wales has been staging back for a while and will be fully open next week. Queensland's schools are open next week, and South Australia really never officially closed schools. So we're also seeing the retail shops open up, like there's more cars on the road, and everything's sort of starting to open up, even though we've got the social distancing and getting our temperatures taken going into shops, which is like weird, right? And other things we couldn't even entertain a few months ago. So life's still starting to get back to normal. So when are you planning on transitioning back to face-to-face lessons, and are you continuing online, Vanessa? Can you talk to us about that?
Me, I am now going to be doing sort of both. With WA, well, with my studio, I actually teach on school property. So at the moment, I'm not actually allowed on there as a third-party person. So I have a funny feeling that will be the situation till the end of this term, so another 6 weeks. But saying that, there's one town which I travel to. I use the playgroup rooms, and I can teach there. So I've actually done a full day of teaching already this week, and so it's actually quite nice to actually be face-to-face to the kids. But what I've found by doing the online lessons, a lot more parents are actually willing to actually stay online. So actually it's going to free up my travel time a lot, and it just means that, yeah, it's an opening up of new opportunities for me in that regards. But I mean, all those making sure that I'm covered by legal requirements of my insurance and stuff like that. So there's lots of little bits and pieces that need to be just double checked to make sure that I'm covered if something does happen. But yeah.
Talk to us about that. What's that about? Insurance for online lessons?
No, for face-to-face lessons.
Right.
Because it's more of a case of what happens if there is a COVID outbreak out here. We haven't had it made it. Well, COVID didn't come out this way. Well, it sort of did, but didn't. But everybody being a small community, everybody knows what's going on. Yeah. So I've got, so when I'm doing the face-to-face ones, I've got some little face shields, which are very plastic, like clear plastic, which can cover not in the kids' faces, but my faces. So when they sneeze, I'm not going to get covered. And, sterilise those just as it's a backup precaution.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, good. Susan, what about you? What are you going to do going forward? You just hinted about something before.
Well, I did, because I moved down to Mittagong from Sydney, where I had a thriving piano studio and I was teaching at a school, and thinking, well, what's going to happen now? And then the whole health issue happened, and everything was online and everybody was happy. And everybody's still happy. I'm canvassing my parents, because I think what I'll do is continue online with trips down to Sydney to do some workshops and things like that, and performances for the students, live performances. But we're doing concerts online on YouTube and that sort of thing, as it is at the end of this term. And nobody sees any reason to change anything for this term anyway. So, and I said I'll revisit the idea in July. But I quite like teaching from home. I actually get more out of the students. Don't ask me why. But they seem to, maybe it seems more intimate. Maybe I know them really well anyway. But it does seem to have a lot of more positives than negatives. I mean, yes, the sound can drive you nuts sometimes. But, you know, I think that's a small price to pay for the positive things that come out.
Yeah. And so have you managed to keep any, because you've moved from Sydney, like eastern suburbs of Sydney, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did you actually take any of your students online when you did that move?
All of them.
Oh.
And I have 3 more. Go figure.
Did you pick up a student who had moved over to America or something or other?
Yeah. Well, I had a few years ago, I had 2 brothers whose parents worked for Apple. They moved to Silicon Valley. They couldn't find a piano teacher who taught like I do, and I really we got on well, basically. That's what it was. And so I was teaching them for a few years
that's
over in
great.
America. Yeah, and that was very basic, Facebook only, you know.
Yeah. So
FaceTime, sorry,
wait and see. And Sarah, what are you planning on doing? Because you're kind of, how many weeks before you go into summer break?
You know, there's actually 9 different school districts that in my studio, oddly enough, and I don't have
Really?
that many students, you know, spread out, very rural. And so some of them are actually already done this week, and then a couple of them have, I think, 2 more weeks to go. But of course, none of us are in school right now, so we'll be headed into the summer, and most things are still shut down. We have they've lifted some things, but our restaurants and everything are still closed. So.
Our restaurants are closed too, because we can only have 10 people in one place at one time. Going to 20 in a few weeks' time. So not very many restaurants are actually able to kind of, you know, make a business work on 10.
It's tough.
It's not be a challenge, I would think. So yeah, we're definitely the same, even though we're quite ahead of the curve in terms of not having very many cases. So I guess you've just got to wait and see until September. Is that what? Yeah.
I think so. I've as much as I miss seeing my kids and my adults. I teach adults too, and I miss the actual FaceTime. I miss actual FaceTime is what I miss. And but I don't want to rush it. I mean, with all the research out there, especially about singing, I just want to be smart about it. And so I'm telling my studio, you know, we're going to stay online when actually tomorrow's my last day of teaching for a couple of weeks at least, and when we come back in June, we'll still be online, and just going to wait and see, and just be smart and safe. They're doing really well online, so I feel like we're doing okay.
Rush. So what is it? You just mentioned that especially research, especially with singing in COVID. What's that? I guess there's a lot of air going out.
Right. And there were just several webinars. One was by the National Association of the Teachers of Singing. And, you know, they had, I think, 4 experts on there that talked about the dangers of singing and how when you sing, these very, very tiny droplets come out and they kind of suspend in the air for a long period of time. And so in order to have like one-on-one singing lessons, that's going to look very, very different in the future, I believe. And honestly, I can't quite wrap my brain around it just yet. So I'm waiting for other experts to chime in with solutions and ideas.
Yeah, you might be online for quite a bit longer with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
or I need to take everybody outside to sing or something.
Yeah. Vanessa, someone's asked us whether we can have a photo of those face shields. Have you got one?
Yeah, I am just organising that. I'm just sending a photo to Paul via Messenger so it can be put up for everybody to see, because they're quite nifty. So
all right, cool. Well, when Paul's got that, we'll show everybody. Let's move on. We've had several questions in over the week about what to do with very young students and the difficulties of teaching the 0 or babies to 4-year-old age group online. So we thought you might like to see what Vanessa's been up to. Firstly, let me tell you the backstory. I met Vanessa at Tim Toppin's Piano Pivot Live in January, and we got chatting, as you do.
Yeah.
She was saying how keen she was to bring early childhood music to her community. And we have an early childhood program called Jungle Music, and for babies and 3-year-olds. And since writing this course, I've seen the enormous difference it has made in the lives of my children and thousands of other children in 4-day schools around the world. So there developed a dream of mine about how wonderful it would be to somehow develop an outreach program for kids in rural communities who just don't have the same opportunities as kids do in the city. So in that moment, merged a dream of mine with a dream of Vanessa's, and I offered her the chance to start our first Jungle Music outreach program. So Vanessa, can you pick the story up from there?
Yes, most certainly can. Just a little bit of background. It's sort of like where I live, the local primary school has 22 kids. Next town, 22 kids in their primary school. Another town, 36. The district high school, 100. So basically, I don't have a huge pool of kids to actually work my magic with. So I sort of go, okay, if I can get 20% of all the kids in my teaching, I'm doing well. But what I found was that I wasn't getting kids starting music until they're about year 2, so when they're about 7 years of age. So there was a huge gap, and I was working with the district high school junior teacher and going in one day a year and getting the little kids of 3 to 4 year olds actually playing the different musical instruments. And it got mentioned, we need something to actually fill this need, because there's so many kids that have developmental issues or speech delays, etc. So yes, it was sort of like when I heard people at Piano Pivot talking about teaching young ones, I'm thinking, I've got to get involved. It's going to fill a big need. And I'm just thinking, but how do you teach a 4-year-old or 3-year-old piano? But so it was an opportunity which I sort of jumped at. So I sounded out my 4 different communities, and pretty much, yeah, everybody was, yes, we want to do this, and sort of 40 kids later on the list. So I started off with one town because I thought, okay, I'll test the waters, see how I go, if I can do this or not. First session, 12 kids, and I was breathless after I just went, oh my goodness. And then I still had to teach 10 students after that, and I was like, holy cow. And then, yeah, COVID hit. So I did the second one, go, yes, I can do this. I know what I'm doing. Then COVID. So I shunted all my music students who do individual lessons, 50 of them, overnight onto online lessons, and just went, oh, just leave that jungle music. I can't deal with that yet. And then sort of after the first week of recovering after online lessons, I just started thinking about it, and I'm just going, and I ended up asking Julie, I was like, is anybody doing this online? Can it be done? What can we do? And I was like, she goes, and Jill goes, just go for it. I went, okay, off I go. Yep, and then, yeah, just sounding out parents and stuff like that. So I ended up with 12 students who were willing to actually start online, which I thought, great, that's a nice size. And yeah, just went from there. I have learned so much about video production and what not to do, and I'm still learning. I think we all are. And then I hate watching myself, so but I mean, it's one of those things. It's been the jungle music program that I've done. It has been noticed by our Wheat Belt Development Commission as well. So people are really excited to see that a little business out in the Wheat Belt is actually thriving.
Oh, that's
doing
so
stuff.
nice. So
Yeah.
nice. Well, Vanessa has sent me a couple of videos as she's been going. I've been, following very closely with Vanessa because she's our little fledgling.
Yeah.
And she sent me videos, and I kind of twisted her arm. I said, "Oh, Vanessa, I'm just so thrilled about how well you've done for a brand new teacher. And you just taken to it like a duck to water." So we've got a little video of a sneak peek of what Vanessa's been doing with her little Lise.
I've got my little monkey. Who's got that? Say hello to everyone. Go on our toes. Okay? So we put our jungle friend on our toes. And then we go Ray on our knees. So everybody got their friend on their knees? And then we go me on our hips. On my shoes, out to my knee. Forest friend, line up on me. On my head, you run around. Chase down and jump back. Oh, Daryl went the little rain from one day. So happy, sat on my nose. What do you think? He gave a little wink. He said, I beg your pardon. I thought you were the garden. Run, Ricky, watch and go. Let's do the young show. Okay, pick up his run. Whoa. Bella the elephant is
did so well today. I would love to see you next week too.
That's Vanessa, working from a laundry with a virtual background.
Oh gosh. All I can say is I love that run, Ricky, run, except I'm absolutely puffed after it.
It's your working your fitness, girl.
I know.
Well, we're so proud of Vanessa, who didn't let a little thing like lockdown stop her from achieving her dream. And some of us, like Vanessa, view the world in such a way that where others fear, they can forge ahead and take action. So achieving our dreams and goals often comes down to mindset. And we are very lucky today to have Sara, who is a mindset expert. And so can you speak about mindset and how this affects the decisions we make every day, Sara?
Absolutely. So I don't know if I'd label myself a mindset expert, but I do my best and I'm still learning. So, mindset is something that when I started getting coaching in it, it really changed the way that I would feel about problems that were in front of me, and it changed the way that I could interact with my clients, whether it was the parents or the students, and so what I found in this is that there were some of my clients who were really struggling with what I would call a fixed mindset, that basically that their abilities were fixed and that they couldn't change. And so, when we find ourselves in that fixed mindset, we feel stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been really focusing in my studio on encouraging not just growth mindset. So growth mindset, that there's always room for improvement. There's always room to focus on how we do it. How can we do this better? So growth mindset's great, but also focusing on taking it like a step further and looking into what's the benefit mindset here. So with that, you start thinking about how can you make a difference in somebody's day, and you instead of focusing on the how, we shift over to the why we do it. So not the how of music, but the why we make music, and that's been really helpful, especially like you mentioned earlier, with my teens.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being a teen, I never wanted to sing at home around my parents. That would just be weird. I didn't want them to hear me, or, playing the piano. I would run over to the keyboard and put my headphones on. But, being able to encourage, not just your students, but yourself, to find the benefits and find the joy in teaching, even when this is not what we, chose. But I think we're all making this work in really wonderful ways. And if we can focus on the benefits and the joy that we can find in that little bit of time that you're spending with somebody, it makes the day go faster.
It sure does. So how does mindset affect what we feel and do when we receive an email from a parent, for example? Like I often see posts in Facebook groups with teachers reacting to a comment made by a parent. Do you have any tips around that, Sara?
Oh, sure. So I like to think there are 2 R words that we use here, right? We, the first one that normally comes into mind is like that we're going to react to something. So when we have a text or an email or something, and especially now that we don't have that real FaceTime with people and we can't talk to them about things, it's easy to feel like you have to react to something and that you jump into like that emotion, and sometimes we jump into action a little bit too quick. But what I like to shift that into, instead of reacting, we go to the second R, and that's responding.
Mm-hmm.
And giving yourself extra space and time and grace
Yeah.
to think about how can I respond in a way that really serves my clients and serves my business and that is fair and compassionate, I think.
Yeah. So, sometimes I've seen in groups where they've got an email in and they've shot an email back, which is react, isn't it? And sometimes it's probably a really good idea to write an email but send it to yourself. And think about that one for a while. What do you think about that? What do you say around that?
I actually really like the idea of sending it to yourself. That's really smart. I always say when you're typing an email, never type it. Like if you're feeling reactionary, don't draft that email back to that person, because you're going to hit the send button by accident. and then you can't take it back. So typing it to yourself, and then also kind of if you're dealing with a situation where you're feeling really heated or just upset, 24-hour rule.
Yeah.
You know, it won't be the end of the world, and you know, to find a little bit of space. Yeah, I like that.
Good idea. Susan, what do you have? What advice do you have for her in that situation?
Well, I'm like you. I write one to myself and send it, just in case, you know. Then it's there, and I sleep on it, look at it the next day, and I always change it, because I have always, no matter how hard I try, said something the wrong way, or a way that can be ambiguous. And I find I react to things, and I can blow up quite quickly. I know that about myself, so I'm much kinder the next day. I'm more considerate of the other person.
True.
You know?
Oh dear. So what about, email versus calling? I know Paul's absolutely keen on that telephone call rather than the email back.
I think calling is calling if you can, and you could and you're not in that reactionary state, much better. I mean, oftentimes I think people hit out at you because of so many other things that are happening in their life, and it's not necessarily you, it's everything else. There was a time during the beginning of transferring everything online where I was calling everybody, but I was exhausted because I got the whole story from everyone. And but then I just thought, well, this is now, and then we don't have to do that all the time, you know. But I do think calling, if you can, is the best.
Vanessa, what about you? What advice do you have?
I actually prefer calling or calling, because I find that the email form of communication just depends on people's moods, how they're going to respond to your turn of phrase and stuff like that. So you don't have that time, or you can't pick up on those audible cues from how people are talking. So I find as soon as I pick up the phone and say, what's going on, or how can I help to adjust things, it makes such a big difference, because your parents, they know you care.
Yes.
And as soon as you have that, they're on board.
Yeah, that's right. And with the email thing, you kind of get into the kind of ping pong. They said using it just gets out of control.
Yeah, I'm probably too blunt with my emails, which is how I talk at times. It's like gone. So
yeah, and you just don't know. If they've had a bad day and they get an email from you that's kind of just very short and to the point, they think, huh? And then the whole thing just escalates and gets out of control, doesn't it? Now Sarah has a gift for you. And to help you in this sort of situation. It's an email template called Clear Communication in Your Studio. So we're going to put a link to that in the show notes. Thank you, Sarah.
Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, I've kind of broken it down to, how to craft really good emails. I know we've talked about getting on the phone, but sometimes we do have to send an email.
Yes.
And like I have 5 little tips in there. I call it the kind remind. So yeah, you guys can download that. It's
that's
pretty simple to follow. 1 page. No hard reading.
One we like 1 page. And we've also got the face covering face-to-face for face-to-face lessons. So Paul's going to put that up so we can see what that is. Oh.
Yeah, so it's almost like just a little face shield, a little bit of elastic and some foam rubber. And they're not that much. It's just be the postage, and they're made in Perth.
Oh,
okay.
Yes.
Are they child size, or are they one size fits all? What is happening?
I think it's a one size fits all because of the elastic sizing.
Oh, okay. They've been. Yeah, it was kind of a new, and I don't know whether you've got this over there, Sarah, but you go into a over here anyway. You go into a supermarket, and they're like in this booth of
we have that here too. That they just installed that in most of the grocery stores and all the places around here. You've got that plastic between you guys now.
Yeah. Whoever was in that business has made a mozza. Oh well, we've had a question from Catherine Louise, and she asked, "What tips do you have on how to get students practicing when they have so many extracurricular activities?" Susan.
Well, these days they're practicing a lot because they don't have those extracurricular activities. But what I noticed is the joy has increased. They're loving playing. They play more songs, more pieces. But back in the old days, I had a few little tricks, and they change around because one size does not fit all. But one of the things I used to do was make a practice chain.
What's a practice chain?
Chain of paper, like the old paper chains.
Links.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Linking, so everything, every practice makes it longer. Every practice makes it more secure. Every practice improves the sound. So at the end of last year, my whole studio was decorated with everybody's practice chains joined together. So that was the decoration. And they were so proud. It was really lovely. It was really lovely. And they'd bring them in to show me, or they'd send photos to show me. That was a very successful little strategy.
So what, when they nailed a piece, they were allowed to put the name of the piece on a paper chain and add it to another one, or like how did?
No, they didn't put anything down. They just said, "I've done my practice," and so it was just they made the chain,
okay.
added. Some kids, there is a stage where they just want to please mum.
Yeah.
So some kids took their paper chain from their room and took it across the hallway to mum's room. Like they made.
It's like tangible evidence that I've actually done something from sometimes a very intangible thing.
Yeah. And the other one that was the most successful was a template where I have wow, fantastic, and good as a little grid. And you chose your 3 favourite colours and you practiced the name of the piece on the sheet, and you coloured in a square, and you decided, was that a wow performance, or was it a fantastic performance, or was it a good performance, and what did you need to change to give it the wow factor? Now you end up with this little quilt on a sheet of different colours, and that was successful.
That sounds great. Great idea. Vanessa, what about you?
Oh, well, I do know that during COVID or the lockdown, my kids have actually started practicing a lot. Just over here, where I am, it's sort of like the kids are on buses for an hour and a half. They have to do sport. It basically, because if you don't do sport as a kid, then the sport doesn't happen out here because of the numbers. So my policy is try and do 5 minutes a day or something like that. But to get them practice, I mean, I've done the paper chain thing. It's sort of like, let's get 7 circles together for each day of practice. And that's like, oh my goodness, I've done punch cards where they just punch for each day.
Yep.
A lot of my ideas have come from teaching piano today. I think that's an American site, does Wonder Keys.
Yep.
And I've been some of their ideas have been worked really well. But I think the main thing for me is that I do make a big deal about them actually mastering a piece, even if it's just a basic one out of a piano pronto book or something like that. And it's sort of like just to see their eyes light up and go, yes, I've got it. I can take my tab off that page and I don't need to practice that one again. I can go on to the next piece. So it's getting that joy of trying to get further along and get that sort of put into place. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years down the track, they are actually practicing quite regularly for me.
And Penny Temple Watts says, does anyone do brag tags in non-COVID times where we can actually send them? Has anyone done that? Seriously?
Yeah, I did that with the scales. Scales. Yes, that I grabbed them off.
Linda.
Yeah, Linda Irvine. Yeah, grabbed them off there. She was one of the first sites I found when I was starting to look for ingenious ways to be proactive about scales. And the little kids really loved it. It was something that it was a tangible evidence, and they could just put it on their school bag. So all of a sudden you'd have a couple little tags on there, and every other kids are going, what's that for? So I've mastered this one. So my piano students could go, you're up to this scale. I want to be there. And so it creates that sense of having not only that studio, but they're actually working, go at that competition against each other.
That's right. It's sort of your kids must be practicing a lot. They've actually just won back like hours every day.
Yes. It's just been amazing to see just some, especially the boys that I teach. All of a sudden, things are just starting to click for them, and getting.
Well, it happens when they practice, doesn't it? You know.
Yes. Yes, finally you've got it, and their sight reading is actually developing quite nicely. So I'm just going, okay, we're going to be going back to sport in a month. Okay, we'll go back to it.
Yeah. Sarah, what about you?
So we've done some small things like that. I've really gotten away from like the practice incentives over the years, and instead what we're focusing on is, how can you share your music with somebody? And so we've started, coming up with creative things like, okay, so I might have a kid who learns a small hymn, and I said, okay, great, let's make a goal for you to play at church. Or nowadays, since we're all online, I had them record it and send it into their pastor so that they could include it as part of the service. Or I've had some students that are really into TikTok nowadays.
Oh.
And so there was one of my kids learned the piano theme to the show The Office, the USA version, and so she recorded herself doing that, and then spliced in some videos, and she's going to be sharing that on Instagram and I think TikTok. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's good. Well, talking about performances, online concerts are on many of our radars right now for you in the US with the end of the school year, and for us here coming up to school holiday time, and it's our mid-year. And this year, your students can be part of International Make Music Day, which is happening on Sunday, the 21st of June. It's a global thing, and this year they're making it an online event. So to be part of this worldwide celebration of playing music, you only have to do 3 things. You've got to register with makemusicaustralia.org.au, or in the US, there's a US site. And I think there's there'll be a UK site as well. I think if you just put in Make Music, you would get the link for your country. And then if you register, you'll get a participation certificate. And then on the day, so you can do your concert beforehand, and then on the day you can post your video up on your Facebook group, or the students can post their videos individually, however you want to do it in your studio. And it just has to be tagged with Make Music Day and hashtag Make Music Day and hashtag Make Music Oz. So we'll put the links and all the details and all the links and everything like that in the show notes, including Sarah, you did a webinar recently with another teacher about running online concerts. So
Alexa Madison and I did an interview on Facebook Live, and it's really great. There's actually a PDF. We put together all the ideas that teachers were sharing. It's like a 3 or 4 page PDF of how-tos and ideas that you can do for online recitals. It's really fabulous.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And yes, it absolutely, Heather. Heather's just asked, can it be done? Or can it be done without Facebook? I think you can put it up on YouTube.
Yeah, that's what we did. I did YouTube and Zoom. It worked fabulously.
Yeah. So it's something to be part of, and it's a global thing, and there's thousands and thousands, tens of thousands. It's very big in Europe, and we're hoping to grow it in Australia as well. I think it's pretty big in the US. The NAM Association gets behind it as well, don't they?
Yeah.
So if you're interested in Sarah's business and mindset tips, or want to know more about her courses, the social media, because lots of people want to know about social media, the social media savvy studio.
Yes.
Reopening that course in June, so you can join her email list. We'll put a link to that all in the show notes. And that's all we have time for today. I'd like to say thank Sara Campbell, Susan Head, and Vanessa Munns for being with us today. And next week we have another amazing panel for you. We have Ray Delisle, who is an associate professor of piano at the University of Auckland, New Zealand. Ray has taught many outstanding pianists, including John Chen, who was winner of the 2004 Sydney International Piano Competition. It's rather a feather in her cap. And she's really quite renowned for her work on musicians' injuries, and has produced an ebook called Fit for Piano. So we're going to talk more about that. And it's about simple exercises that you can do now that are fun and make playing more easy and musical. Jo Cocci. Jo will be joining us from Perth. She's a composer and experienced piano teacher. She particularly enjoys working with young teachers and students who are a little bit out of the box. And many of you will know Joey's work from the Amy B piano series, 17 books and 18 technical exercises. And Joey Lieber, who is a pianist and piano teacher who specialises in teaching jazz and improvisation. And Joey has been published in Piano Safari, is a prominent contributor to Musico, which is a teacher resource platform for online teaching. So really fabulous mix of guest panelists next week. In the meantime, we'd love to have your questions in for our panelists next week, so please email them to us. And I'd like to thank Paul Myard, who's been producing today's show and is responsible for all the videos and behind the scenes tech. On behalf of us, stay well and we'll see you next Thursday. Bye.